What is up, everybody? We're back with another video. I hope this video can stay up. I imagine I'm going to get at least one, if not multiple, copyright claims on it. But it's something that I wanted to do to just kind of touch on what this weekend's really about and what people have given up. So we are doing a 3-piece Memorial Day special reaction to American Soldier by Toby Keith, Some Gave All by Billy Ray Cyrus, and The 8th of November by Big and Rich. A lot of people are out this weekend drinking, barbecuing, mudding, at the beach, out fishing, out at the lake, out at the creek, out at the river, whatever it may be. And that's great. It's the American way. But please, at some point this weekend, take the time to thank a veteran. Take the time to thank and think about the ones that can't come home and the families that they leave behind. You'll have to Google if they're doing it this year, but historically Golden Corral and a couple of other restaurants, they usually have a free dinner for a veteran, active military, whatever the case may be, throughout this weekend. And typically when they do, the disabled American veterans will be there out front at a table. They'll have information. They'll have a service officer that can advise anybody that thinks they have a VA claim. And they usually have a donation box. This organization is not funded by the VA. They do work hand in hand with the VA. And they do amazing things for our veterans. I know it's a messed up economy. I know it's a weird place right now. But if you're in a position that you can help, please show these guys some love. That's my rant for the day. Without further ado, we're going to get into it.
I'm just trying to be a father, raise a daughter and a son, be a lover to their mother, everything to everyone, up and at 'em bright and early, I'm all business in my suit. Yeah, I'm dressed up for success, from my head down to my boots.
And that's probably the hardest part. Everybody says, the men and women that defend this country, they risk their lives. They risk injury. Some of them see their friends and their brothers fall down beside them. But for most of them, a big part of that struggle is not what they risk or what could happen to them. It's the lack of control and the family they leave behind. I mean, if you've ever been on a 24 or 48-hour tether, you don't know what's going to happen from one minute to the next. If there's ever a national emergency, you don't know what's going to happen from one minute to the next. And then when you're gone, depending on what branch and exactly where you're located in the world, communication can be spotty, can be problematic. You might have small children, maybe a kindergarten graduation, maybe a high school graduation, anniversaries, birthdays, Christmases, Thanksgivings. It doesn't matter. They sacrifice so much of themselves, but their families sacrifice so much too.
I don't do it for the money, there's bills that I can't pay.
And unless you're an officer, cost of living is a little different because, live on base, live on a ship, whatever the case may be. But unless you're an officer or you've got many, many years in, these men and women don't make a lot of money. They do have benefits and they have stability that is a lot in today's economy, but they don't make a lot of money. Nobody joins the military. Nobody enlists in the military for the money. I can promise you. In most cases, it's a calling in their soul. It's stuff that they believe in, things that they feel are worth fighting for. Some people, the benefits are a big package. You go to college, do this, do that, learn a career, have a future, and even if you learn a career in the military, even if you get your degree while you're in the military, and this has come a long way over the last few decades, but I still pose that our government, our people as a whole, and obviously there are holdouts and there are individuals. This does not apply to everybody, but the Gulf War was not a popular war. Shock and awe was not a popular war. Vietnam was not a popular war. These soldiers come back and they get spit on and looked down on, and y'all are murderers and you're killers. And you don't have to agree with the mission. You don't have to agree with the means, and you don't have to agree with the ends. But you do have to stand behind the people that were willing to risk it all for our way of life. Most of these individuals, 99% of these individuals, are following orders. They're not making these decisions. They don't want to be in Iraq any more than you want them to be in Iraq. But they're willing to take the fight to Iraq so that we don't have to fight here.
I don't do it for the glory, I just do it anyway. Providing for our futures, my responsibility. Yeah, I'm real good under pressure, being all that I can be. I can't call in sick on Mondays when the weekend's been too strong. I just work straight through the holidays, sometimes all night long. You can bet that I stand ready when the wolf growls at the door. Hey, I'm solid, hey, I'm steady, hey, I'm true down to the core, and I will always do my due.
And another thing, man, a lot of these guys, whoever joins the military for their own reasons and their own beliefs. But once they join the military, they're not fighting for themselves. In some cases, big picture, yes, they're fighting for this country, but in some cases, they're not even fighting for the country. They're fighting for the men and women standing beside them. Because you will only ever be as strong as your weakest link. And they know that. And they don't want to let the people that they may have known for years, they may have served with for years, that have always had their back, they don't want to let them down. Because they're quite literally, their lives may depend on it.
No matter what the price, I've counted up the cost. I know the sacrifice. Oh, and I don't want to die for you, but if dying's asking me, I bear that cross with honor. 'Cause freedom don't come free. I'm an American soldier, an American. Beside my brothers and my sisters, I will proudly take a stand.
That's another thing, y'all. I mean, outside of how it would leave their families and affect their families, most of these men and women would rather lose their own lives than to have to bury the men and women alongside them. or than to see a drop of civilian blood shed if they could prevent it.
When liberty's in jeopardy, I will always do what's right. I'm out here on the front lines, sleep in peace tonight. American soldier, I'm an American soldier. American soldier, an American. Beside my brothers and my sisters, I will proudly take a stand. When liberty's in jeopardy, I will always do what's right. I'm out here on the front line, so sleep in peace tonight. American soldier, I'm an American.
The phrases "give me liberty" or "give me death" are not a sentence to these individuals. They're not a saying, they're not a catchphrase. They're a way of life and a core belief.
An American soldier.
Alright, y'all. This next joint is going to be the 8th of November by Big and Rich. I forgot to put this in my intro. Obviously, these are not first time reactions to any of these songs. If you've never heard these songs, then I'm glad you're hearing them for the first time. But it's fairly unlikely that anybody that follows music hasn't. I'm more trying to get you to listen to and understand the underlying messages of these songs, the sentiment and the emotion behind them. Now, the 8th of November is about an ambush of the 173rd Airborne Brigade. I don't know a lot about that story, but the video that I'm going to play, Chris Christopherson gives you a little background as it leads into the song. So, without further ado. Also, between the length of some of these songs and my a little bit more elaborate reactions and thoughts, this is probably going to be one of my longest videos. You've got a 3-day weekend. 30, however many minutes of your time for these men and women. That shouldn't be too much to ask for.
Hello, I'm Chris Christopherson. On November 8, 1965, the 173rd Airborne Brigade on Operation Hump, War Zone D in Vietnam, were ambushed by over 1,200 VC. 48 American soldiers lost their lives. Severely wounded and risking his own life, Lawrence Joel, a medic.
Overwhelming odds. 1,200 VC. And these men continued to dig in and fight.
Was was the first living black man since the Spanish-American War to receive the United States Medal of Honor for saving so many lives in the midst of battle that day. Our friend Niles Harris, retired 25 years United States Army, the guy who gave Big Kenny his top hat, was one of the wounded who lived. This song is his story. Caught in the action of kill or be killed, greater love hath no man than to lay down his life for his brother.
Said goodbye to his mama as he left South Dakota to fight for the red, white, and blue.
And you know, that's another thing, y'all. The part that gets overlooked, for the most part, these are kids. Be it, you know, in recent history, they chose to enlist for whatever reason. Whatever the reason they had. Vietnam times, it's likely that this individual was drafted. Maybe he chose to enlist. Be it for beliefs or opportunity or whatever the case may be. I'm talking about 18-year-old, 19-year-old kids. They're leaving their homes in South Dakota. Back then, surely a small town. They're leaving everything they ever knew to go off into the strange new unknown.
He was 19 and green with a new M16, just doing what he had to do. He was dropped in the jungle where the choppers would rumble with the smell of napalm in the air. Then the sergeant said, "Look up ahead." Like a dark evil cloud, 1,200 came down on him and 29 more. They fought for their lives, but most of them died in the 173rd Airborne. On the 8th of November, the angels were crying as they carried his brothers away.
And as you get more and more into modern times and the media exposure, these kids are fighting with a hand tied behind their back. For the most part, there are always exceptions, there are always outliers, but for the most part, the United States and their allies are always going to abide by the rules of engagement. Most of our enemies are not. And worse, not only do they not, but they know we do, which puts us at a huge disadvantage. People say, well, he shot that kid. Yeah, he did. And that's tragic. The kid had a bomb strapped to his chest. If he hadn't, 12 of his brothers would have died standing next to him. And it's not the kid's fault. You can't blame a kid. They don't know any better. And what they do know, they were raised and programmed to know or believe. And if you think that doesn't mess with any decent human being's head to begin with, which is why I believe there should be so much more mental health help for these soldiers when they come home. Don't just throw them to the wolves. See what happens? That's why there are so many homeless vets. It's why so many of them have substance abuse problems. Not only does his conscience and his soul have to deal with that choice, but now the media wants to get a hold of it and call for criminal charges? And that's what I'm talking about, man. These guys relive this over and over. You know, Memorial Day is supposed to be about the ones that don't make it back. And that's horrible. But you can't change that. You should definitely honor that, respect that, cherish it, and try to live up to what they were fighting for. But you can't change the fact that they're gone. What you can change is how you take care of the family they left behind. Be it their actual family, wife, mother, father, children, or be it the family they fought and died alongside. The ones that come back, that wake up in the middle of the night, if they sleep, screaming. Look, I'm sorry for the length of this video, y'all, and I really am trying to keep it together. This one's real personal with me, yo. Everything we have, everything we are, everything we will ever be is because of the sacrifice of these individuals.
Swallows it down with his tears. On the 8th of November, the angels were crying as they carried his brothers away. With the fire raining down and the hell all around, there were few men left standing that day. Saw the eagle fly through a clear blue sky. 1965, the 8th of November.
And Vietnam was the worst for it. I mean, it happened after the first Gulf War. It happened after the second Gulf War, for sure. It happens probably a lot more than you hear about nowadays because the media tends to skew things the way the media wants to skew things. But after Vietnam, I mean, these individuals, be it they chose to enlist or they were drafted, they answered the call. They served their country. Was it a misguided war? Probably. Was it handled wrong? Definitely. But they weren't the ones making those decisions. They were the ones doing what was asked, answering the call when the phone rang. Sprayed and betrayed by their own government, then brought home to once again be betrayed by the government that sent them over there. The government turned their back, threw these individuals to the wolves, and the American people ripped them apart because it was an unpopular war they didn't believe in. To this day, there are people suffering from the effects that they got in Vietnam, both at enemy hands, friendly hands, and our so-called beloved government. And the government fights their claims tooth and nail because they don't want to do anything about it. That's a problem. Look, any one of y'all call me, say, hey, look, this dude, he did me wrong. We're going to handle this. Are you in? If I believe and what you're fighting for, you better damn sure believe I'm in. But if I am in, and then as soon as the cops show up, you want to turn your back and be like, hey, it was all that guy. Better look the hell out when I get out.
Saw the eagle fly through a clear blue sky. 1965. On the 8th of November, the angels were crying as they carried his brothers away. With the fire raining down and the hell all around, there were
48 dead. I don't know how many wounded. And I don't know the exact story of this battle. But knowing what I do know about how the VC fought, and that there were 1,200 of them, these 48 men and women that were little more than kids, they could have been dead in an hour. Maybe it was 2. God forbid it was 12. If it had to happen, I think on a personal level, I'd at least have wanted it to be quick.
few men left standing that day. On the 8th of November, the angels were crying as they carried his brothers away. With the fire raining down and the hell all around, there were few men left standing that day. Saw the eagle fly through a clear blue sky. 1965. The 8th of November. 8th of November. 8th of November. Said goodbye to his mama as he left South Dakota to fight for the red, white, and blue. He was 19 and green with a new M16, just doing what he had to do.
It was the 8th of November, big and rich, y'all. With a Chris Christopherson intro. I might have got sidetracked on this earlier. There'll be links to all of these original videos in my description. I'll circle back to it. Next up's going to be Billy Ray Cyrus. Let me give all. I know I said this at the beginning of my video, and I'll probably say it again at the end of my video, but if you know somebody that served, I don't care what branch, I don't care when, I don't care in what capacity, go shake their hand. Tell them thank you. Shake their wife's hand. Or look their kid in the eye and tell them that I'm sorry you had to spend that time without your mother or your father. But that we owe everything we are to that individual. If you know somebody that was lost in combat, or you know of somebody that was lost in combat, first responders as well, for that matter, firefighters, law enforcement, I don't care. Reach out to their families. Ask them if they need anything. And if you served with those individuals, maybe go have a conversation with their children and let them know what they were really about.
Sandy came, few folks even knew his name, but a hero, yes, was he. Left a boy, came back a man. Still many just don't understand about the reasons we are free.
That's what I said I was going to start back to earlier, y'all. The other side of this. Best case scenario. These individuals never see a day of combat. They're never forced to see one of their brothers or sisters in arms lying there bleeding. They're never forced to turn a weapon on the enemy and lay awake with those images at night. These individuals still don't come back the same. Worst case scenario, all of the things I just said happen, and those individuals definitely don't come back the same. But we're taking children, forcing them to grow up overnight, make adult decisions, and stand behind them like we would any adult, when our own government, 3, 4, 5 times their age, can't stand behind their decisions. It's not right.
I can't forget the look in his eyes, or the tears he cried as he said these words to me. All gave some.
I'm sorry for that cut right there, y'all. I need a minute. I actually right before my background change, in the first video, I got interrupted, which was part of the reason for my background change. But I actually just had a conversation that I didn't know if I could compose myself long enough to put these 3 songs together back to back, particularly this weekend, and make a video that was something that I felt I could get behind and that I was okay with airing. Provided I make it through the next 3 minutes of this song. Apparently that was something that I was able to do. I hope y'all feel the same way.
Gave all. Some stood through for the red, white, and blue, and some had to fall. And if you ever think of me, think of all your liberties and recall. Some gave all. Now Sandy Kane is no longer here, but his words are oh so clear. They echo throughout our land. For all his friends who gave us all, who stood the ground and took the fall to help their fellow man. Love your country and live with pride. And don't forget those who died.
And that's what we lost, y'all. There was a time, even in my lifetime, almost every house had an American flag. Everyone knew what we were, what we stood for, what we cared about, and that you weren't going to with us. Why does that only happen in times of tragedy? They all circle the wagons, gather round, wave their flags, pump their fists, and 3 months later they forget about it. They're bored with it. The media wants to pull it off TV. The footage is too disturbing? Get the hell out of here. Love your country, live with pride, and don't forget the men who died. It's the biggest honor that you could pay these individuals. But every time you burn a flag in the street, or you say you're ashamed to be an American, or enter retarded slight here, you spit on every grave in Arlington. And if you're in the DC area, or you're ever going through the area, that's something that every American should see. The Vietnam War Memorial as well.
America, can't you?
I have to retract that last statement. The sentiment behind you burning the American flag and saying you're ashamed of this country is a spit in the eye of every person laying in Arlington. But every person laying in Arlington fought for your right to burn that flag and talk your trash. And almost every one of them unitedly would stand behind your right to do that. Think about that the next time you want to sling insults.
You see, all gave some gave all, and some stood through for the red, white, and blue, and some had to fall. And if you ever think of me, think of all your liberties and recall. Some gave all. And if you ever think of me, think of all your liberties and recall. Yes, recall. Some gave all. Some gave all.
I was Some Gave All Billy Ray Cyrus, y'all. Like I said, there'll be a link to all 3 original videos in my description. I'm cutting out the intro. I'm cutting out the end. This video is really not about me. And it's already probably my longest video. If you happen to be walking by one of those restaurants this weekend, or any time for that matter, and you see DAV, the American Legion, the AMVETS, I'm sure I'm leaving somebody out. That also extends to the DAV Auxiliary, the AMVETS Auxiliary, the American Legion Auxiliary, Sons of the American Legion. I don't care. These are the institutions that do everything they can to stand behind these men and women that the government won't or don't want to. Give them a hand. I'm out, y'all. Y'all be safe.